Welcome to the Inspired Intentions podcast with Skyterra Wellness. If you've been too busy and not taking care of yourself, it's time to reset habits and plunge into your new normal. I'm your host, Jeff Ford, and I'm here with my co-host, Rachel Colasino.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey.
Hi. You know what?
What?
It's a big day today on the Inspired Intentions podcast.
Is it a big day?
It is a huge day because we have, for the first time ever, Alan Broyhill, our executive producer, as a guest. We've given him a mic.
Oh my gosh. He now has a chance to defend himself.
He can talk.
Wow. This is so exciting.
Should we bring him in?
Let's bring him in.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, guys. I think I more took the mic. I don't think it was given.
You took it? You just made an executive decision?
I made an executive decision.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. The people need to hear from me.
I guess they did. I mean, this time of year, I guess he has some background in helping our listeners understand this topic.
I guess. Let's.
Do we want to talk about what the topic is, Rachel?
What do I get to talk about?
Yeah. So the topic is something that is really appropriate this time of year, which is what the heck do I do outside in the winter?
Yeah. I get asked
in Western North Carolina.
In Western North Carolina.
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time.
Is it possible to do things outside in the winter here?
Absolutely not.
No, not at all.
No.
And it's really wild how we've been running our retreat through the winter.
Yeah, you can't do anything at all outside ever.
We can't do anything now.
It is like Antarctica here. No.
Lots of emotional experiences.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's year round. There's so much stuff to do.
And Alan would know because in addition to being the executive producer of our podcast, he is the recreation lead at Skyterra. And he is also the creative lead in our marketing department.
Isn't he like the food photography lead as well?
He's the food photography lead, yeah.
And the group staff picture lead.
Yes.
There's like a lot of leads that this guy has.
Yeah. Most people at Skyterra have at least 2 titles.
At least 2.
Alan
7? 8?
He has the most.
I stopped keeping track.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But Alan actually wrote a really great blog, which you can find on skyterrawellness.com. And he wrote the blog specifically about winter adventures in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I had mentioned to Alan that, it would be great to have a blog like that on our website. And the blog that he wrote blew me away. It was beautifully written. It was poetic. I was sort of just expecting a list of where you can hike in the winter.
Not from the Renaissance man.
No, he's a Renaissance man.
Not from the Renaissance man.
Never. It was an ode to winter. It was beautifully written. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Rachel.
Yeah. Yeah. But you were saying, Alan, that a lot of time people ask you, like, what are we going to do in the winter outside? What do you say?
Yeah, I want to take a pause here just for a second and say that this applies everywhere. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Western North Carolina. I grew up here. I love it here. I travel a ton, especially during the winter. You can do stuff outside everywhere. So just keep that in mind from wherever you're listening from.
I like that.
That's a good tip. And Alan, just so you know, you're not traveling this year. We have lots of podcast episodes to record.
Okay.
So
that's fine.
You may have used to do that. So that'll help for our context day, but
yeah, those days are over.
It's over.
I need help. They've kidnapped me. Sorry, Rachel. Go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry.
Well, let's get back.
So in guests, we obviously at Skyterra, we have guests year round. You work year round. Mm-hmm. You lead adventures and recreation trips year round. So you said you're always surprised when people say, what is there to do in the winter? How do you respond when people ask you that question?
Yeah, they see how much I enjoy being outside. I can honestly say that. And when they're like so baffled, a lot of times it's people that come from the perspective of like that wintertime cabin fever, getting snowed in kind of deal, where they're coming from somewhere that's very cold, very white, that has maybe like a snow melt in the spring kind of place. They're always like, you love to be outside so much. What do you do during the winter? Like, you guys don't really have ski mountains around here. What do you do? I'm like, my response is nothing changes while everything changes. Ooh, what does that mean?
That means that was deep, bro. That was super deep.
Yeah.
Say that again for a second.
Nothing changes while everything changes.
Can we get a little more
Yeah.
drama?
Nothing changes while everything changes.
Now our listeners have heard it. That's so true. It is a good line. I think that
I
applies
like that.
to multiple things.
Of course, yeah, it really does. I like to apply it to my my recreation because, well, here in Western North Carolina, I can't speak for everywhere, we have 4 seasons, and they're all incredible, and they're all very distinct, right? So that's kind of where I come from when I say everything changes, because the season is very different. But nothing changes because I still do everything that I do during the summer, the spring, and the fall. I do it during the winter. Yeah.
Hikes.
Fly fishing,
Archery.
horseback riding, archery.
It all happens.
Whitewater rafting.
Whitewater rafting, really?
kayaking. Oh, yeah. All of the above.
Is the stream cooler?
It is.
It is.
Your average temperature, sometimes the stream is warmer than the air temperature, but that's rare.
Yeah.
Very rare here.
Well, I'm a huge fan of cold therapy. So
There's a lot of people that are into that.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that do not like to do things outside unless it is cooler, unless it's around that 50, 60 degree mark. And the cool thing about Western North Carolina in general is that if you look at our Brevard area compared to other places, even in Western North Carolina, where I grew up in Boone, it's much colder there. But here, our average high during a day is like 55 to 60, somewhere around that. And then the lows are at night. So if you think about our temperature ranges throughout the year, during the winter and during the summer, we have very small, what I call temperature swings. So at night, the lowest temperature at night is very close to the highest temperature during the day. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Same thing for winter. It gets cold, but it also warms up, right? And so those temperature swings. In spring, we have bigger temperature swings, right? Think of springtime. Fall time is the exact same way. Springtime in specific, it can get pretty cold at night, but then it warms up really high during the day. And you have longer days, right? Things are starting to trend that way. And so you end up in those long temperature swings. Now, during the winter, where I was getting at is that 55 to 60 degree range. People often prefer that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're doing physical outdoor activities.
Sure.
Like, I know you guys both love to run. Would you rather run when it's 75, 85 degrees outside, or would you rather run when it's 55?
I actually,
55.
I like 40 to 50 if it's a long run.
That's
like if I'm going to be out there for a while, I'll have a light glisten, they would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus a heavy sweat.
We can see Jeff coming from a mile away from his light glisten.
Yep. That's how I roll. Everybody knows that. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. What do you say to people who don't like to talk about the weather?
Oh, I make them talk about the weather.
You do?
Yeah. Well, you got to take that into account. Like, granted, there are going to be colder days. There are going to be warmer days. You got to pick your battles, right? I'm sometimes a self-proclaimed idiot about stuff like that. I will go out in the most extreme temperatures, right? Just because I love what I do, and that's not for everybody. So you got to find your happy place with those things, but there's so much opportunity no matter where you're at to get outside and do stuff. You just got to really keep check on the weather.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't want the weather to hold us back, but we also do want to be prepared.
Well, you got to be a realist about it, right? If it's going to be 30-mile-an-hour winds and it's already 35 degrees first thing in the morning, you might not want to try that early morning hike.
Yeah.
That's true.
You might want to wait until the sun
peaks up. We tend to do
up.
more afternoon hikes in the wintertime at the retreat.
And it's very strategic.
Super strategic. Alan and I, our heads get together and we make sure we make sure those hikes are at the right time because we know weather. Well, Alan knows weather. I just support.
Help him with a schedule, Doc.
Yep. Exactly. Google Docs. Our executive producer, he may know how to run a podcast. Google Docs.
Not his friend?
Not his friend. No, he thinks he's good at them, but
I've actually never tried.
Yes.
I look at a lot of them. I don't edit them.
Yeah, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
All right. So Western North Carolina, weather
back
in general.
What about the snow?
Yeah. So people, I get a lot of interesting questions, especially again from people that come from different climates or have never been here before. They ask about our snow melt here. Or like in the springtime, there isn't one. Just so everybody knows that we
what
don't.
Is snow melt?
Yeah.
I've never heard the term ever defined.
Okay. So if you're out west and it snows all winter and it always stays cold at higher elevations, right? Then all that snow compacts and it compounds. And then whenever the temperature finally breaks and hits that high temperature, all of it starts to melt off for the season. So like out west, often enough, my friends that live out there can't fish for a certain amount of time on certain rivers or certain stretches because there's so much runoff from all of the snow melting off, right?
Gotcha.
So like we don't really have that here. We're in a temperate rainforest here in Brevard, North Carolina, and we do get a decent amount of rain, right, on average, but we never get really that snow melt, right? So the snows that we have, I would kind of categorize it, and people might disagree or they might agree, but it's generally around this, right? We might get 5 snows a year, okay? Most of those are going to be less than, I don't know, an inch, maybe 2 inches. It's like a dusting, right? And
so my wife made me buy a generator for 5 snows a year and just an inch of dusting.
You have a baby.
That's true.
This is true.
You think it was a good purchase?
It never hurts.
Okay.
You never want to not have it and want it.
I feel better. Just some of this information is hitting me hard.
Dollar signs are flying in your head from that generator right now, isn't it? Yeah. So really, the snow melt is not really a factor. We have maybe 1, maybe 2 big ones, and usually within a week, all of that is already gone.
Okay.
Yep, the ground soaks it up.
So it's pretty quick around here. Like even
quick. When
we get dumped on, I mean, I've experienced a few of those snowstorms. It's pretty quick.
Yeah, we had one last year that I think at my cabin over a couple counties over, it dumped like 26 inches in like 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And that was like an anomaly from like 60 years or something.
I think I remember that one.
Yeah.
I was driving back in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Massachusetts, so
right.
I ain't scared.
And it's way
snow.
different. Yeah, like people from up north, like my buddy that grew up in Michigan, like they see the snow that we have here because he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and he's like, "This is nothing.
It's not snow.
This is not snow. This is nothing." Right?
And schools would typically not close.
They would never close, but they close. Sometimes they close here for stuff like that. So like we get very little inclement weather, which is super cool. I mean, it's actually quite nice, which opens up those opportunities to be outside, and it's from a lot of different aspects. And we've got some podcasts coming up that will end up talking about stuff like this. But Jeff is a sleep expert, and being outside and getting that sunlight is incredibly important.
It's kind of crucial. You'll have to stay tuned.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Or go to skyterra@home.com.
That's right.
And download the PDF. But
the PDF,
it's not like our voices.
No.
It's not the same thing.
No.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, inclement weather, not much.
What about how do you make sure, because when guests are coming to Skyterra, I know we give them a list on the website of things that they need to pack. What about for someone who's planning to coming, or even if you're planning to start to go outside more in the winter, what kind of clothing, what kind of gear do you recommend? I would love to talk about socks. I'm always looking for warm socks.
If you could see the smile on my face right now. So
how Jeff is shaking his head.
I am a self-proclaimed gear junkie. I don't know. I've always been like that. I've always wanted to have really good stuff and just have one of something that's really, really good. Right. And it lasts me a very long time. I think that that's incredibly important. So when we're talking about going out in extreme conditions or mild conditions, even having the right comfortable clothing is incredibly important. Like you're not going to go to the gym and then throw a vest on that's a down puffy vest and go work out in it, because that wouldn't be appropriate, right?
Depends on who you are. Yeah. But no, you're right. Yeah. You wouldn't do that.
Right. So when you go outside, you don't want to step outside in the same thing you're comfortable inside in when it's cold outside, right? So when you're in that 45 to 55 degree temperature range, you're not going to want to feel super comfortable inside wearing all of the same clothing that you would outside. So what I mean by that, or this is kind of how I break it down. I do my weather prep, right? So I'm looking at the forecast estimated. Granted, they're never going to get it right. We can't always trust weathermen. I'm sorry, all you weathermen out there.
Please turn off now. Turn your.
You just never know.
Do you use an app for weather, Alan?
You can look at the National Weather Forecasting app, okay, or their website. They're usually fairly accurate because they're taking a lot of active data from everywhere. I tend to look at a lot of radar, active radar and estimated radar. So like Futurecast, that comes off of, I think, the Weather Channel. is fairly accurate on that stuff. So you can
I've got the Weather Channel app.
Yeah, you can look at your radar and see
Great
stuff
on
90
there.
minutes out and kind of guesstimate.
You can progress it.
Where everything's at. That's the future cast. So I check the weather. Look at your highs and your lows for the day and say, okay, I'm going to be out in this temperature range. Okay. Now this applies for the summer and this applies for the winter. I don't care what time of year it is. Okay. I know we're talking about winter and
we're all checking the weather, no matter what time of year it is. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I plan to have on, say this is a pretty heavy swing for a winter day in Western North Carolina. Okay. I get up and it's like 28 degrees, chilly morning, frost on the ground. Right. But I see that I want to go fly fishing or hiking that day. Okay. And it ends up being 55 to 60 degrees. We're talking about like almost a 30-degree swing there or even more.
Big difference.
Big difference. So the stuff I'm wearing in the morning is not going to work at night or in the afternoon. So I will plan ahead. You bring, first off, something to put layers in because you're going to layer and you're going to layer appropriately. And those layers will eventually have to come off. Okay. So in the morning, I'm going to have on something like a t-shirt. It's fine. A base layer, a mid layer, and an outer layer if it's somewhere around that 30-degree range. Okay. What that means is that you have something thin on as a base layer, something warm. We call it, a lot of military people call it waffle because that's what it was always called, or a gridded fleece of some sort. I actually have one on right now. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, he does.
It traps heat.
The Renaissance man is always prepared.
He was prepared.
Yeah, it traps.
Must have looked at the weather this morning.
I did.
And then read my mind about the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah.
It traps heat, right? And then you want to have your mid layer, which is something slightly thicker, warmer. I often like to make my mid layer windproof if I can do that. And then your outer layer is going to be a hardier layer, whether that's a rain shell if it might be raining, or a light drizzle, or a possibility of something like that. Or something that is also significantly thicker. Think about like those super big puffy down jackets.
Oh, I love my puffy down jacket.
Yeah, me too.
Duck feathers,
which are
great. It like heats up as you move more.
Yep, which is great. Now, as far as materials go, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here. Down is great, right? But down can also be your enemy.
When it rains, right?
When it gets wet.
Yeah, I heard I shouldn't take my down jacket out in the rain. It'll ruin it.
So like a lot of companies are making treated down now. It's great. It still isn't completely water resistant. So they treat the feathers before they stuff the coat.
Probably costs more, huh?
Not a ton. Like sometimes you buy it and you didn't even know you got it. Right.
I feel like we're on the online shopping channel now.
I'm a gear junkie. It's hardcore. So you might get something like that. Okay. But I prefer fabrics that keep you warm when they're wet. Okay. And they're windproof and they're great for layering.
That makes sense because you never know what's going to happen out there.
So you want to be able to strip it off and you want to be able to put it back on. Okay.
Especially if you're going for like a hike or something, because I've seen, I love to hike.
Folks, he hates to hike. I'm just letting you know, Jeff is the most fast-paced person that I know. He's an incredible runner. We're going to get into some of that stuff in some later podcasts. He's had a lot of achievements that way, but he is fast-paced. And hiking is not
my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it. However, I think I've had to lead some hikes before our Renaissance man came aboard.
Yeah.
And like me leading a hike, it's okay, but I feel like I am definitely not checking the weather to the degree that I should be.
Right.
And I definitely haven't shared this whole 5-layer deal. And
we're at 3 right now. Okay.
Usually, who messes it up the most is sometimes me, where I'll go out, I got my t-shirt on for the day because I've been teaching fitness classes or whatnot. And I'm usually very unprepared.
Then you're super cold. Yeah.
Yeah. Super cold
hot.
Or super hot.
Yeah. It's one extreme or the other.
Because you definitely heat up as you go, especially it's not like our hikes are raging, but you start to warm up as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter, just, that light activity. So I like to look towards fabrics like, I'm going to give a little shout out here. Polartex, Codora fabrics. There's a company that makes something called Capeline, which is what I'm wearing now, which is that like gridded waffle style stuff.
Is it okay to ask brands?
Isn't he saying brands?
I think he's saying materials.
Those are materials, but those are material brands. Yeah, so these are companies that sell their material to companies that make clothing like North Face or Patagonia or Columbia or things like that.
Oh, so any of those brands
they will buy a Polartec product and then they will make something out of it. or they will buy a Primaloft insulation and they'll make something out of that. So like Primaloft is my go-to insulation. It keeps more than 90% of your body heat, even if it is soaking wet. Whereas down, you lose a ton of that. It'll actually make you colder more often than not. Ooh. Okay, most of the time, they look like those puffy jackets that you see, the downs, but it's a synthetic material. Right?
Oh, yes. There's some hidden ones.
Yeah, so you would never know the difference between the two coats really, but the fabric difference is incredible. Also, they've created products that are, the reason why down became so popular is because it was so light. So,
okay.
To Rachel's point, they make that type of material in socks, which is incredible. They put it in gloves so you can keep your feet warm.
Primaloft?
Yes. It kind of looks like a cotton ball, and they kind of stretch it and weave it into stuff. And it's actually pretty incredible.
Are those your favorite socks?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. Anything with Primaloft woven in, it's key. Because I'm a big fly fisherman, and so I'm submerging myself in cold water, whether it's summer or winter. I'm submerging myself in cold water. Yeah, so it's going to happen. So like that extra little bit of added warmth and circulation is a key thing. So keeping on that train rolling, things to avoid. I always like to tell people to avoid cottons as outer layers. So like a hoodie.
Poor cotton. It always gets a bad rap.
It gets a bad rap. You know, people say cotton's king, right?
Doesn't it burn quick too?
It burns super quick.
Super quick.
Yep. And the dyeing process is also incredibly bad for the environment. Little fact. But avoid cottons if you can. They get wet. They don't work. They're not windproof. Things like that. You want to stay comfortable in those types of things. So like a cotton shirt underneath, a good few layers, or a rain jacket or something like that is fine. But you don't want that to be your primary, right? Same thing with your pants. A lot of people will put all these cool layers on and have a beanie on and keep your upper body warm, and then they forget about their lower body. But we got to think about that too. Getting knee-high socks is great if you're wearing pants outside during the winter.
I love knee-high socks with shorts in the wintertime occasionally too.
Yeah, I've seen
you
do.
It's a look, Jeff.
Yeah, it is a look. We have some really long Skyterra socks.
We do. Yeah, I've seen you wear those before, and they're great for working out, and then you can just go throw a pair of like windbreaker pants on or something. So just think about the layering system, and that will change your entire outdoor game during the winter for sure. I could go on for much longer.
So it sounds like just have a plan around it. Like look at your
weather,
rolling up,
have a plan, have a backpack. You can shed some of those layers, put them right back on. You will be good to go. You will thank yourself later.
Plan out your layers.
Yeah, plan out your layers. Invest in good gear. It's a big part of it.
So I've looked at the weather. I'm dressed.
You're dressed appropriately.
I'm warm.
You're warm.
And now I think I might want to hike. What should I think about when I'm going out hiking in the winter?
Yeah. So here in Western North Carolina, all the leaves have dropped, right? So it's wintertime. Leaves are gone.
Lots of the people are gone too. Which I like.
I agree.
Little privacy.
Gosh, it's nice.
Simpervard.
Yeah. You can get to go through an entire trail and not see another person.
One of the best time of years to hike.
I 100%
feel like those trails get crowded in the summertime.
Yeah,
it's nice to be out there.
Some of the popular ones definitely can, and there's a reason why they're popular, because they're beautiful. So you just get to see it from a different aspect, right? What was your question again, Rachel? Sorry.
Well, hiking in the winter is different, obviously.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that it's a little bit more isolated, what are going to be the differences in the views? What's it going to be like other than the weather?
Yeah. So what I like to show people is I see this all the time, because I'm always viewing these new spots in different ways during the winter. You start to see things you never saw before, because we're again, I think I said this earlier, we're in a temperate rainforest. One way you define a rainforest is by the amount of plant life. Also, clearly, rainfall is another thing. We've got a ton of trees, tall trees, dense trees. All those leaves are all of a sudden gone. It's incredible. So you like, people come here to see leaves during the fall, and the color changes. Beautiful. It's like you get these cool shades of greens and reds and yellows, and then all of a sudden it's gone. People are like, oh, well, that was awesome. Now it's gone. Now what? If you look a little bit deeper past that, you start seeing more, because you're seeing through all those leaves, right? Our mountains are called the Blue Ridge Mountains, and they become more blue during the winter when all of those leaves are gone.
Ooh, that's a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
When you get up at an elevation and you look off at a distance, the reflection, it's something to do with the reflection of light. I don't want to give an improper, but I know it is based on the actual reflection of light off the trees. They become more blue. So as the mountains get further away, the shade of blue actually changes. So you get to see views so much further, right? There's this incredible stillness about the forest during the winter because, I mean, one reason is there's nothing for wind to grab a hold of, right? So the trees don't really move as much per se, but it's just like, it's so calming. Did you guys hear that long pause? How calm that was?
That was the drama.
That was the drama
I was looking for.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. And like one of my favorite things, and the blog that Rachel mentioned earlier, I kind of talked about this as well. Like we do a lot of waterfall hikes here. If you guys don't know, we've got hundreds and hundreds.
It's the land of waterfalls.
Land of waterfalls
around here.
We're the land of white
I've
squirrels.
never seen so many waterfalls
anywhere.
Yeah, it's
land
pretty
of
cool.
White squirrels, land of waterfalls. Those are
I
our
actually
two things.
tell people that I live in the land of waterfalls. A lot of people are like, "Where are you from?" Land of waterfalls. Yeah.
It immediately catches people's attention.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, tell me more.
Yeah, exactly. We have hundreds of them, and
you're expecting like Nebraska.
Yeah, no,
land
definitely.
of waterfalls. You know.
Right.
Sorry.
No.
Go ahead. Yeah, there's hundreds.
Hundreds. It's North Carolina, and it's super cool when I take people on these hikes. I get to see their in terms ears perk up, right? When we're kind of creeping around a trail and we get around this little corner, and then all of a sudden you hear it, and it's echoing through the forest. It's super, super cool. Whereas when the forest is insulated with all those leaves, you have to be right up on them. It's kind of teasing your ears towards that waterfall, right? It makes you want to creep up on it faster and faster and get there and see what it is, right? It's super cool. Like I'll often just stop and make people listen, which is something we don't always do. We don't always slow down in our daily lives, right?
No, we don't.
It's incredibly important to just kind of slow down, stop, and take it all in.
I agree.
There's also this factor of smell. So when you're out there, like spring, we always think flowers, right? Oh, we're going to smell this flower. It's beautiful. You feel it, smell it. It's great. Fall time, if I was to describe a smell to you for fall time, if you were to think about a smell, no, it's not pumpkin spice.
Oh,
if you're out,
it's not.
Is it pumpkin spice latte?
Don't you like pumpkin spice lattes? Is that why?
No, definitely not.
It's not.
I dislike those just as much as I dislike eggnog lattes. All right.
Oh, it's caramel lattes. Sorry,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
I indulge a little bit. All right. So smells. When I think about fall, I want you guys to close your eyes. Not if you're driving though. And
definitely not if you're driving.
And think about if you were a kid and you ever jumped into a pile of leaves. Do you remember that smell? It is such a distinct smell when you're a kid and you jumped in that pile of leaves. And that's often what the forest smells like because all of those leaves have dropped and they're fresh and they've just started to turn brown. And that smell is incredible. And you get that in that early winter stages where all that's there. So like before that first snow or before there's a lot of rain or something like that. And it's just like, it's sight, it's sound, it's smell, it's all there and it's all different. So it's all changing. And you just get this unique perspective on the views, on the sounds of the waterfalls, all of it in between.
So it sounds like a lot of the senses in general are different. The sound, the smell, we kind of get
the view,
so the sight, man.
Yeah. It's all there. Like that's one part that draws people to the outdoors is not just to be a destination hiker or to see A to B or to do A to B, but it's everything in between. It's all the small stuff. And
the 3 S's. I just came up with that. Sight, smell, sound.
If you ate a leaf, we could taste it. I just messed your 3 S's up though.
Oh yeah, don't throw that taste in there. And we don't know if our listeners can differentiate edible from inedible.
This is true.
There's probably stick with the 3 S's unless you're with a trained horticulturist. What do they call them?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it depends. If you're eating mushrooms, that's something different. But
yeah, they each have their own name.
They each have their own name. There's a lot of cool stuff in the forest around here that you can eat, and I like to point some of that stuff out. It's actually super neat. So
it's cool.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different hike in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that it's like that everywhere, but specifically, it's so magical here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very distinct.
It is
in North Carolina.
It's very distinct. Just like I said earlier, like our 4 seasons are so different
Oh, yeah.
And they're so defined that it's hard to find anywhere else that has quite the same thing that we have in this general area.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool place to live.
And I would say between the three of us, we've been a lot of places.
Yeah.
One or two.
A few.
One or two. Right?
No longer. We have this podcast to do.
No longer. Yeah, there's no more travel.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about
now
that.
that we're
Man.
committed, it's a good thing we have those experiences to share.
This is true. The one other thing I like to point out is, so if you still get this aspect of the forest during this time of year, and I've kind of set a tone for you of like sight and smell and sound and things like that. Back to the sight point, one thing that I really like to point out, and the thing that people see a lot of, and often enough, when they're here during the summer months, they really see these things. So May and June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rhododendron and mountain laurel, they bloom. They have these big, beautiful, bright flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's always talked about.
Always talked about. I have a ton of pictures of them. They're beautiful. But they also really shine during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a ton of evergreen trees here, a bunch of spruce, fir, pine, yellow pine, white pine, hemlocks that are left. And the rhododendron is also an evergreen like a pine tree is. It stays green year round.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these plants are forest floor plants, so they don't grow up super high or super tall like the trees do. Like they'll get way taller than we are, but they just blanket that whole undergrowth of the forest in green. And it really is their time to shine. It's super, super cool. And when you're up at a viewpoint and you get to see all these cool patches of our eastern evergreen trees from above, it's super, super neat. And when you walk through one of those patches, there's a few hikes that we do that have these nice big evergreen patches that you get to walk through, almost like if you were to, like, when you go to pick your Christmas tree out and you get to walk through a Christmas tree farm, but think of that, but the trees are like 20 times taller.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I like your images, Alan.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to paint a picture here. Just don't close your eyes.
That's crucial. Yeah, crucial.
Yeah.
What about another activity that I know you love, which is
Okay.
fishing, fly
Yeah.
fishing?
If you guys know or want to know one thing about me, is I love to fly fish. I've been doing it for a long time, and I do it year round, and I do it in a lot of different places. And the winter never changes that for me. And it doesn't change that for the people that come to Skyterra either. Just want to point that out.
So you do is it a beginning class on fly fishing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been teaching people how to fly fish for quite some time. Guided fly fishing a decent bit. And we do an intro class, which is pretty straightforward. It's just casting instruction and just like, what the heck is fly fishing, right? Forbes talked about how it's become super, super popular. That's one of the most popular. Forbes magazine.
So Forbes knows everything, huh?
They wrote a pretty sweet article on us. So us fly fishing folks.
You see how clan-like he is with this fly fishing?
And it really is, though. You start to meet people, and like you could have nothing in common. All of a sudden, you figure out the other person fly fishes if you couldn't tell by just
and you start talking about gear
and gear,
most likely.
Yeah,
Layers.
gear and fish and layers and clothing,
senses.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah, senses, rods.
I can
reels.
imagine. I respect that. It's definitely, you can tell it's like an art almost.
Yeah, it's like your running shoes. You got to have good running shoes, and you know what good running shoes are. There's an important factor to that. So, I love to fish. That's what we're getting at here. And the streams are changing too during the winter. I like to point that out that often enough, a lot of people, like, just along the parallel lines of like, what do you do during the winter, Alan? It's cold here, or do you get snowed in or whatever? We still get to fish, which is super fun.
That's awesome.
We have 4 seasons of fishing here. It changes, so like water temperature and bug life are directly related. Bug life being the things that fish eat, because often enough we trout fish here, and those trout eat bugs. And you get to target fish in all kinds of cool ways, more so than maybe during the summer or the spring, which is super neat. So when I get to show some people those different aspects, especially like, say it's been really low and clear and then all of a sudden it rains, you get to show them something different. It's super, super neat.
Do the fish act differently in the winter?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Colder water, you got to think just like being outside for us, we slow down maybe just a little bit. And and the fish do the same thing. So like your techniques kind of change, and it often enough, like the water's clearer around here during the winter than it is during the summer. We've got an incredibly healthy ecosystem as far as what we have here in the mountains, and our water is top notch. We actually have some of the best water in the country.
Is that why all the breweries come here?
Yeah.
Is that true?
It's 100% true.
It is true.
It is 100% true.
I was wondering if it was like an urban myth, but now that we have confirmation from the Renaissance man,
he knows everything.
We're okay.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how many breweries we have in this area, but
it's like over 50.
Yeah, it's way over 50, and we have one really big one. Do you know what that really big one is, Rachel?
Around here?
Sierra Nevada.
She got it. Look at that, Sierra Nevada. If you went and asked them that, if you do their tour, they'll even tell you that it's like the water is so good here, even compared to what they had out west. Or like Oscar Blues Brewery, we have one of those here.
It's basically like this area is famous.
Yeah, something like that.
And people don't know.
And the fish love that clean water, and it gets super gin clear.
Do fish drink beer?
Maybe if you poured it upstream.
Oh,
they might.
We've got some opportunities.
What about access to the streams in the winter? Is that different?
No, not really. I mean, our weather isn't so inclement that you can't access different places. You know, often enough, there's a lot of places that you don't even have to get in the water, which is super cool. There's a lot of boating access around here as well that you can fish in the rivers. So it gives you plenty of opportunity on both ends. And if you want to put your waders on, just like I do, layer up, go dive in. It's exactly what I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
No joke.
Hiking, fishing, archery,
kayaking, rafting, horseback riding, backpacking, campfires. We didn't even talk about campfires. There's a season where some things are just better. Campfires are better when it's cold outside.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's hot out, no one's like, oh my gosh, I better get close to a campfire.
Let's make a raging fire.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I like being outside, having a nice campfire in front of you, and your back being a little bit cold, and your front being nice and warm from the fire, and you just kind of turn yourself like you're on a grill, and just keep rotating.
Oh
and
my
keep yourself.
gosh,
it's so nice. So like just you got to find the space which you enjoy being outside during certain times of year, and never count anything out. Give it a full experience. Try it. And figure out the things that you need to be successful.
Do you do the campfires in the same spot on the Skyterra campus?
Yeah, we never move them. It's a pretty cool spot. I don't want to move them.
Where is it?
It's down by the lake.
Nice.
Yeah, we get a nice pretty view down there. During this time of year, during the winter when we go down there, it is nice and cold, but the nights are also super clear, and we get so many stars that pop. It's beautiful, the color we get. You can almost see it reflecting off the lake when it's nice.
I love stars. They make me feel good.
We're happy for you, Jeff.
Thank you.
You'll have to come down to the campfire sometime.
Oh, for sure. I know guests rave about the campfire. It's a nice communal bonding experience, especially for those who travel solo. Yeah. Just to kind of unwind, and typically Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, typically
for the most part.
Wednesday night.
Heard it here. Go make a fire.
Yeah, go make a fire. Makes you happy.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
Practical.
Yeah.
It is practical.
Yeah. And then heat your front, and then heat your back.
And just rotate yourself like you're on a grill.
Now, should you go clockwise or counterclockwise? Is there any?
I'm more of a clockwise guy.
Really?
Yeah, but it's also smoke dependent. But that's getting too
probably
bad.
Depends on your circadian rhythm as well.
Yeah. You'll learn what that is later, folks.
Yeah, we'll get into that at some point.
Well, cool.
Any last words, Alan?
I don't think so. I'm sure we could talk for much, much longer about what WNC and the beauty and the Four Seasons and how great winter is. But I just want to get outside and enjoy it. So why don't we go for a hike, guys?
That sounds
Let's do it. We should do it. Maybe one day we could do like a moving podcast while hiking.
We could try and go do that, even though Jeff wouldn't enjoy it.
I would love to do it. I think if I was podcasting while hiking, I'd be okay.
Oh, I'll see if we can make that work.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, totally.
Just add it to your list. Add it to your job title.
Mobile podcast. Well, cool, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being on,
Glad you could finally get on here.
I'm going to steal a mic more often. This was fun.
All right. We'll see what we can do. We'll talk to our co-executive producer.
I haven't met him yet.
Yeah. See what happens.
Thanks again, Alan. So everybody, if you want to check out Alan's blog, it is called, I believe it's called that Nothing Changes, But Everything Changes.
Yeah.
That's on Skyterra. Yeah.
The line of the day.
The line of the day. That's on skyterrawellness.com. Thanks again, Alan, for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness. Special thanks to our Renaissance man, our executive producer, Alan Broyhill.
Ooh, ooh.
Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Rate and review us. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found.
And if you don't feel like giving us a 5-star review, just keep it to yourself.
Go take a hike.
Or take a hike.
Go take a hike.
While podcasting.
The puns.
Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.